Mm. Oh, look, it's being recorded.
Well, I'm hungry. You might hear my tummy growl.
Have we just gone live, I think?
Maybe. Oops. Okay, starting now. Okay. Hello, everyone. Thanks for joining us in this live panel session on the Master of Pharmacy. My name is Conny Locher. I'm the Deputy Director of the Pharmacy Program, and I teach the chemistry component of the course. Now, before we get started, I would like to start by acknowledging that the University of Western Australia is situated on Noongar land, and I would like to acknowledge the Noongar people as the spiritual and also the cultural custodians of the land, and I would like to acknowledge that they continue to practice their values, language, belief, and knowledge. Now, I'm really, really lucky tonight because I've got three lovely people joining me on this panel. Two of them are current second-year students with us, and one has graduated last year and is currently working as an intern in a hospital pharmacy. So I like to call them to introduce themselves. So maybe ladies first, we'll start with Monique.
Hello, good evening. So yeah, my name's Monique and I'm in my final year in the Masters of Pharmacy course. Prior to this, I did my undergrad in nutrition.
Curtis?
Hi everyone, I'm Curtis. I'm also a final year Master of Pharmacy student and my background was in anatomy.
And finally, Harry.
Hi everyone, I'm Harry. I'm an intern pharmacist who graduated last year from UWA from the Masters of Pharmacy, and I'm currently working in St. John of God Subiaco Hospital.
Excellent. So what I thought we'll do tonight is, of course, I could tell the audience lots and lots of things about how it is to study pharmacy with us, but it's probably much, much better if you hear this from the students who are right in it. So maybe I'll start with you, Curtis, and maybe you can actually tell the audience a little bit how it is to study pharmacy with us now from the perspective of a year 2 student. So what are some of the elements that really stand out for you?
I think some of the elements that really stand out to me as a student is the fact that we have such a small cohort in each of the years. So while the course is really challenging, you come in and see the same people every day. So a lot of the friendships you form and things like that are really, I think, stand out to me compared to any other course that I've been through at university or any other studying I've done, where you are seeing the same people day in, day out. All the staff know who you are. I think that really sets it apart. But for better or worse, the staff know who you are. But yeah, I think that just makes the aspect of it really enjoyable. But it is also a very full-on course, but yeah, a lot of fun.
I can just resonate with this from a staff perspective. It's lovely because we really know our students, and that is really some of the rewarding elements in our course from a staff perspective as well. Now, maybe Monique, because you are almost finished with the degree, you're in the very last semester of your studies. So if you look back now, what advice would you give someone like people from the audience today who might consider enrolling in pharmacy? Is there anything you want to tell them?
Oh, well, I can firstly doing the best thing, your research and getting some information if you're listening to this, so that's important. Basically, as far as someone who's done or almost finished the course, it is an amazing course and it has provided so many opportunities over the past 2 years to really not just get knowledge, but develop other really amazing skills. And yeah, if you're interested in it, just find out as much information and maybe get even a little job in a community pharmacy and go from there. But yeah.
Excellent. Now, Harry, I really need to thank you. We really appreciate that you were joining us tonight because I know you've come straight from work, which literally gives it already away, you working already out there in the real world as an intern. So maybe you can tell the audience a little bit about your current role as an intern in a hospital pharmacy.
Yeah, so as an intern in hospital and community will be a bit different. As for myself in the hospital, you do get to do a really large range of different fulfill a lot of different positions. So whether this is in the dispensary, providing medications for patients in the hospital, whether it's manufacturing medications for patients who are also outside of the hospital, or even just being on the ward. So working alongside a lot of doctors and nurses to make sure that you are trying to provide the best treatment possible for all the patients in the hospital.
Cool. Now, sorry, Curtis, I need to do this to you now. I need to put the spotlight right onto you because I need to share some really exciting news, because just recently, only a few weeks ago, you've actually achieved something amazing. You have actually won or be crowned the National or Australian Pharmacy Student of the Year, which is an incredible achievement. So maybe you can tell the audience a little bit about that particular competition.
Sure. So the competition itself is a competition held every year. Every single university in Australia nominates 5 students. However they select those 5 students is up to them. And then you do almost some clinical questions and some ethical questions in like an exam format to determine the state winner. And then every winner from each state does a final, which is normally in Sydney. Unfortunately, this year was on Zoom. That is, again, some sort of clinical problem. And yeah, I guess I came out on top of that in the final, which was
Awesome.
unexpected, but cool.
It was fantastic. And probably just to boost a little bit, I should also mention that we actually won that competition the previous year as well, which is incredible considering what a small program we are and that we are up against some of the really, really big pharmacy programs with lots of students from over East. So I think it's really just a testimony of what a great bunch of students we actually have here at UWA. Now, most people who have done a bit of research into what it might be like to study pharmacy probably have noticed that it's not a walk in the park. It is, in particular, if you do it at a postgraduate level, quite an intense degree, which I think doesn't mean that it's all just books and study and hard work. There's certainly a lot of that in the degree, but there is more to it, I'd say. And I think, Monique, I know you're an extremely hardworking student and you're also mum to 2 children. And on top of it, I think you're a bit of a social butterfly. So I just wonder if you can tell the audience a little bit more about the extracurricular activities you have been engaged in while doing pharmacy with us.
Yeah, yeah, definitely I can talk about that. So as Kenny said, the course is hard, but there's a lot of fun that goes along with doing this. And so there's lots of opportunities, and actually Harry and Curtis probably better talk about UAMPS because they're both president and previous president of the pharmacy committee of UWA, but that's something that you can do while you're studying. There's lots of other, I mean, placement isn't really extracurricular, I guess, but there's lots of other things you can do, voluntary work. What else have we got? Oh, I'm blanking. Curtis, maybe you should come in.
In terms of other things you can do.
Yeah.
Oh, there's God knows how many committees you can get involved with. There's early career pharmacists who you can get involved with by extension of the course. There is, the Master of Pharmacy Student Society you can get involved with. There's all the full faculty in health and medical sciences. There's so many committees, I'm genuinely forgetting about 5 of them.
But I might think that you also have some pizza nights or movie nights or pub crawls. You probably have a little bit of a social element to that as well, isn't it?
100%, yeah.
I thought so. Now, those of you out there in the audience who've done a little bit more research on the course, you might already be aware that we're actually a fairly hands-on course in the sense that we've built 2 placements into our course structure, which means we're sending our students in their first year into community pharmacy for a placement, and then in second year, we rotate them through a number of hospitals so that they get a feel for how it would be like to be out there in the profession and what awaits them. Now, when we rotate them through the hospitals, we have a public and a private hospital, we have children's hospitals, sometimes a psychiatric hospital. So it's quite a diverse range of workplace experience we can offer. So maybe we'll zoom into this a little bit, and then maybe Monique, maybe a few words on how it was like in your community placement in year 1.
It was really good. So yeah, it was 5 weeks out I was in the metro area for my placement, and it was just a really good opportunity to kind of consolidate some of that knowledge that we had gained in the first part of the course, and yeah, really get to apply some of our skills. And I worked with a really amazing team, and they, you know, really kind of helped foster a great learning experience. So yeah, that was good for me, and I managed to snag a little job out of the end of it. So that was that was good too.
That's even better.
Yeah.
Now, Curtis, you again special because you did your placement actually not in the metropolitan area, but you did it rurally. So I probably should just give a bit of context, because most of our placements are, of course, in Perth, but we have a few places where we can send students to the Kimberleys or to Terreltons or remote or rural placements. And that often is a very different experience personally, but I guess also professionally in terms of how interdisciplinary the healthcare team actually works in these areas. So maybe a few words on your rural placement, Curtis.
Yeah, so I went to the Pilbara region. So I worked in, or did my placement in 4 pharmacies between Newman and Karratha, which was an amazing eye-opening experience. I think the appreciation I got for healthcare, not only for the Indigenous population, but also for just how collaborative it can be, was a bit crazy. And you just see how everyone sort of fits and works together. It was, yeah, a crazy experience and something I am so glad I got the opportunity to do.
Excellent, excellent. Now, and you, Harry, obviously, you must have liked your second year placement in pharmacy, in the hospital pharmacy. Otherwise, you probably wouldn't have chosen a hospital pharmacy career. So how did the placement actually prepare you for your current job?
So in the hospital placement, generally what you do is you study a lot of cases about patients and you try to identify areas that medications can be optimized. And so in terms of, for my role at the moment, sometimes when you see different patient profiles or the medications they're on, doing it in and out every day during the placement, the 5-week placement in different hospitals, gives you a really diverse range of experience that you can dwell upon when trying to assess a patient's well-being and the medications they're on. So just the sheer amount of experience you got from the placement helps you kind of work more efficiently and pick out things that you might not usually pick out, but you learn from a different hospital because they have different processes or systems that you have experience from.
Excellent, thank you. Now, I don't know, maybe looking at the time, we've covered quite a bit of ground, and I hope what we have sort of chatted about so far has already given you some insights into our degree, but maybe there are some questions out there that we haven't answered yet. So I can just see on the Q&A panel that there are a couple. So we're going to start off with these ones, but if there are any more questions out there, just feel free to type in your little questions, and then we'll try to sort of wiggle our way through whatever you ask us. So there was a question about the prerequisites for international students. Someone has just posted. Now, it's correct that for international students, yes, the application for intake next year, 2021, has already closed. The sort of the opening and closing periods for international students is actually quite early. So around April or so, if you're an international student, you should actually look into our website and actually see when the application link actually opens. Now, in terms of the prerequisites, it's very similar for everyone applying to it. So just very much, in very brief, of course, you have to have an undergraduate degree, which is somewhat related to what we're doing, because we are a postgraduate program. So this undergraduate degree is essential. Now, within your undergraduate degree, you must have addressed 4 knowledge areas, which we consider as prerequisites. So you must have done math or stats and chemistry. Now, in particular for domestic students, but also for some international, it's probably interesting to note that you can tick off these prerequisites by having done math and chemistry at year 12 level in your high school time. So that these 2 requisites are quite easy to address. And then we have 2 more prerequisite areas, which is pharmacology and microbiology. So you must demonstrate in your application that you have completed at least 1 unit at undergraduate level in these 2 subject areas, so microbiology and pharmacology. If you meet these conditions, then you sort of address our prerequisite requirements. Now, in addition to this, there are a few other requirements. So you need to have a competitive GPA. Depending on if you're an international, I can't really comment what exactly that magic number needs to be, because the admissions office normally does the conversion, but you need to have done a relatively good job in your undergraduate degree. For domestic students, the GPA is 5. And then you also need to have police clearance. You need to submit this before you start with us. And then for international students, there are also some language requirements. And again, I'm not an expert in this field, but the admissions office normally looks at these applications and then lets you know if you actually tick our entry requirements. If you do, you'll be sent an invitation to an interview, and that's the same for domestic and for international students. And then we interview everyone in a fairly structured or formal way. So very similar to some of these structured interviews that you would see if you apply for a medicine's degree. And then everyone is given an interview score. And then we ultimately rank all applicants on the basis of a joint interview score and their undergraduate GPA. So if you're really good communicating, you've done extremely well in the interview, you can balance if you haven't done that well in your GPA, or if you've been nervous on the day and your interview didn't go that well, but you've done really well in your GPA, it's all going to balance itself out. And then the top 50 ranked applicants will get their first round offers, and then we'll sort of cut it from there. So that's really in brief how our application process works, and that is very similar for domestic and for international students, difference being that the timelines are a little bit different. Now, not sure if there are any more questions. I'm not very versed in these type of panels, so I'm just picking there. Okay, so now I see a couple. So the contact hours, someone actually wanted to know about if they are similar or different to an undergraduate degree. Now, maybe some of our students can answer that question. So maybe Curtis, you would probably know.
Yeah, it's a lot more contact hours than undergraduate for probably most undergrads. I think first year you're in most days of the week, while lectures are recorded, and that's been a little bit changed this year because of COVID. The way it usually runs is there are lectures pretty much every day, and you're sort of encouraged to go to them and talk during the lectures and do the tutorials. So you're in pretty much most days of the week, and that's kind of for most year first year. For second year, it sort of drops off a little bit, but there's more content to be covered, so you're kind of studying most of the time anyway, so it sort of balances out a bit. But yeah, there's a lot more contact hours.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Good insight from a student perspective. Now, there is another question about sort of how easy it is or how quickly you can secure a job after you graduate. Now, of course, there is no one-size-fits-all answer to this, but I can just answer that maybe from my own perspective, because I've just sort of did a little bit of research into this. And when you actually look at the graduate surveys, pharmacy is one of the degrees which has the highest success rate for securing a position straight after you leave from university. So I would generally speaking say the job prospects are actually very, very good, in particular considering to some other degrees. How quickly you get it, and if it's immediately a full-time job or if it's the perfect job you want, probably also depends on where you're looking for. So if you're really restricted for a particular area, or if you want to have a particular type of pharmacy or so, probably restricts a little bit your options. But generally speaking, I personally think the job market out there is actually quite good for pharmacy students, in particular if you compare them to other graduates. Not sure if you guys want to add something, because I think that's probably a question more burning for you than it is for me, because you will be out there looking for jobs very soon. So what's your feel about the job market? I don't know, who wants to answer? Is there someone who wants to comment?
I can answer on
okay,
that.
good.
So yeah, generally it's quite easy to find an internship somewhere for pharmacy after, and after that generally, depending how well you do in the pharmacy or the area that you have gone internship, they probably will keep you. But the demand for pharmacy is increasing a lot more as there are more roles that they can fulfill. So there is a lot of development in the area of pharmacy where they have identified that pharmacists are really important. And so with a continually growing profession, there's only going to be more opportunities and jobs.
Awesome. Thank you, Harry. Now, there was another question about if pharmacy is more community-based or research-based. I assume this is directing to the content in the degree. Now, if that's the case, we've got them both. So we cover it all in our degree by the sounds of it. There is a lot of pharmacy practice type of content in our degree, which is sort of the counseling skills, the drug knowledge and so forth. But we also have built into the last semester of our degree a big research unit where students can, in teams, either do research in a pharmacy practice or in a pharmacy science field. And that basically covers and teaches them some of the essential research skills as well. So we're trying to sort of address it all within our course. Now, there's another question on if the program would actually prepare for a career in clinical pharmacy. Or maybe I should try and answer this. Clinical research, you asked specifically. Now, it really depends on what type of clinical research you want to do. personally, I think pharmacy gives you a very good grounding because it gives you very wide perspectives. So you have a lot of good communication skills, you've got drug knowledge, you've got research skills, you've got science background. So you basically bring a lot to the table. Now, this is, in my opinion, a really good stepping stone for a clinical research career. But what exactly then is required, if it is more industry-based or hospital-based, really, it's a difficult question to answer. But generally speaking, the diversity that we try to sort of capture in our degree, including a research component, in my opinion, would prepare reasonably well for a research-based clinical career. Now, there is one a bit of a lengthy question. Let me just quickly see that. So I'm aware that prior to the commencement of the master course, every student requires 75 hours of pharmacy work experience. To my knowledge, the university does not help students in finding this position. What can we do if you run into trouble? So maybe students, maybe Monique, you might have had to look for those 75 hours. So can you comment? Is it difficult, and can you get assistance from somewhere?
You can definitely get assistance if you needed it, but it is pretty straightforward getting that job.
Excellent. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm just getting messages here that time's up. So sorry, there are too many sort of panels I need to look at the same time. So I'll wrap up now. Thank you very much, everyone, for joining. I hope you found this useful and enjoyable. And of course, if you've got any further questions, anytime, just send us an email or we'll continue answering your questions on the panel. So once more, thanks for my three lovely co-presenters tonight. And thanks everyone for attending. Have a lovely night and enjoy the rest of your postgraduate info series. Bye everyone.